Title suggestion: the brutal truth about success that the I Ching figured out 3,000 years ago. Most people believe that the path to wisdom is paved with passivity, that the Zen approach to life means letting go of control and allowing the universe to flow around you like water around a stone. They are wrong. 3,000 years ago, a group of prisoners and sages, locked in a dungeon during the collapse of the Shang dynasty, realized a counterintuitive truth that would define Eastern power dynamics for millennia. The most spiritual thing you can do when faced with a corrupt obstacle is not to forgive it, but to bite through it with the force of a thunderbolt. The I Ching, or the Book of Changes, is often marketed today as a book of fortune-telling or vague poetry. But in its original context, it was a manual for survival in a world of betrayal, shifting political tides, and total war. It teaches that peace is not the absence of conflict, but the mastery of change. If you are struggling to make a decision right now, if you feel like something is stuck in the gears of your life, the ancient masters didn't want you to meditate on it. They wanted you to understand the mechanics of the bite. Did you know that the 21st hexagram of the I Ching is literally titled Biting Through? It depicts a mouth with an obstruction between the teeth. The wisdom isn't in the chewing. It's in the realization that without a decisive snap, the nourishment of your life will remain forever out of reach. To understand why this matters to you today, we have to go back to the year 1050 BC. The Shang dynasty was rotting from the inside. King Zhou of Shang was a tyrant of legendary proportions. He was said to have built a forest of meat and a lake of wine, while his people starved. He imprisoned a local ruler named King One. It was in that prison cell, facing execution every single day, that King One refined the 64 hexagrams. Imagine the weight of that. You are in a cold, damp cell. Your life's work is at risk. Your family is being hunted. You don't need motivational quotes. You need a map of reality that tells you when to strike and when to disappear. King Wen realized that the universe isn't a static place. It is a series of repeating cycles, like the seasons or the rise and fall of empires. Think of the modern corporate landscape. Think of companies like Nokia or Blockbuster. They didn't fail because they lacked resources. They failed because they couldn't read the change. They saw the winter coming and tried to pretend it was still midsummer. The I Ching is the ultimate algorithm for pattern recognition. It's the original big data of human behavior. When we look at the leaders of today, the founders who disrupt entire industries, the strategists who navigate impossible geopolitical waters, they are all, whether they know it or not, practicing the art of the I Ching. They understand that every situation has a timing. If you act too early, you are a fool. If you act too late, you are a ghost. The stakes for King Wen were life and death. The stakes for you might be your career, your mental health, or the future of your family. But the mechanics remain identical. We are currently living through a period of great transition, a shift in how we work, how we think, and how we relate to technology. The oracle's wisdom isn't about predicting the future. It's about having the clarity to see the present for what it actually is, stripped of your hopes and fears. Today, for episode 21, we are diving deep into hexagram 21, Shurhi. This is the biting through hexagram. It is the core teaching for anyone who feels blocked by a person, a system, or a habit. We are going to decode how the ancient sages used legalism tempered by justice to clear the path. We're going to look at why your niceness is actually a form of cowardice that is holding you back. Let us look at the source text for hexagram 21. The oracle says, biting through has success. It is favorable to let justice be administered. What does this actually mean? In plain language, there is a lie or a corruption in your path. It is like a piece of gristle in a meal. You cannot swallow the meal, and you cannot enjoy the flavor until that obstruction is removed. The ancient masters used the image of thunder and lightning. Lightning represents clarity, seeing the problem exactly as it is. Thunder represents the shock, the action required to break the obstacle. Consider the return of Bob Iger to Disney. The company was bloated, the creative engine was stalling, and the internal culture was fractured. He didn't come back to collaborate on a vague vision. He came back to bite through. He had to eliminate layers of management that were acting as the obstruction between the creators and the audience. He administered justice to the structure of the organization. The actionable principle is this: an obstacle does not disappear by being ignored. It disappears by being defined and then decisively broken. Now, listen to the second teaching from this hexagram. The text says, the first line, 6 at the beginning. His feet are fastened in the stocks so that his toes disappear. No blame. This sounds like a punishment, doesn't it? But the I Ching is subtle. Being fastened in the stocks at the very beginning of a journey is a blessing in disguise. It means you have been stopped before you could make a massive mistake. It's the fail-fast mentality 3,000 years before Silicon Valley existed. Think of Elon Musk and the early days of SpaceX. The first 3 launches failed. They were, in a sense, fastened in the stocks. The universe stopped them. But because they were stopped early, they were forced to bite through the technical flaws that would have killed the company later. They didn't blame the universe. They used the stocks to learn. The actionable principle. Early failure is not a sign to quit. It is a mandatory diagnostic for your strategy. We move to the middle of the hexagram. 6 in the second place. 1 bites through tender meat so that his nose disappears. No blame. This is a vivid, almost grotesque image. To bite so hard your nose disappears into the meat means you are dealing with a problem that is surprisingly easy to solve, but you must be careful not to overreach. It's about the intensity of the response. Have you ever had a problem that you thought was huge, but when you finally addressed it, it was solved in minutes? That is the tender meat. But the danger is in the momentum. You might go too far and hurt yourself or your reputation in the process. In 1997, Apple was weeks away from bankruptcy. When Steve Jobs returned, he didn't just trim the product line. He bit through the tender meat of dozens of mediocre projects, leaving only 4. He bit so hard that many thought he was destroying the company's future. But he was clearing the nose-deep clutter to find the core. The actionable principle. When the opportunity for a solution appears, strike with total commitment. But do not let your momentum carry you into unnecessary cruelty. The fourth teaching comes from the 9 in the 4th place. The text says, biting on dried, gristly meat receives metal arrows. It furthers one to be mindful of difficulties and to be persevering. Good fortune. Now we are into the hard nut to crack. Metal arrows represent the hardness of the task. This isn't tender meat anymore. This is a legal battle, a deep-seated addiction, or a competitor who refuses to budge. The I Ching warns you. This will hurt. You will feel like you are biting on metal. But the good fortune comes only to those who expect the difficulty. The modern world rewards the overnight success narrative, but the I Ching rewards the dried gristle worker. Think of Reed Hastings at Netflix. He had to bite through the gristle of the DVD by mail business model to get to streaming, and then bite through the gristle of original content production. Each stage felt like biting on metal arrows. It was expensive, risky, and everyone said he was wrong. He persevered through the difficulty because he saw the cycle shifting. The actionable principle. The hardest obstacles require a long bite strategy. Do not mistake resistance for defeat. Finally, we look at the warning at the top of the hexagram. 9 at the top. He wears the outer wood of the stocks so that his ears disappear. Misfortune. This is the most dangerous state. This is a person who has refused to bite through their own ego for so long that they can no longer hear the truth. Their ears are literally covered by the punishment of their own making. This is the leader who surrounds himself with yes men. This is the person who blames the economy or their partner for everything wrong in their life. Look at the fall of Elizabeth Holmes and Theranos. She had multiple opportunities to bite through the lies and the technical failures of her Edison machine, but she chose to cover her ears with the stocks of her own narrative. By the end, she couldn't hear the warnings of her own scientists or the investigative journalists. The misfortune was inevitable because the cycle of biting through was ignored in favor of saving face. The actionable principle. The final stage of a failed strategy is deafness. If you stop listening to criticism, you are already wearing the stocks. Vary your rhythm. Think about where you are in this hexagram right now. Are you at the beginning, feeling the stocks on your feet? Are you biting through tender meat and worried about overreaching? Or are you grinding your teeth on dried gristle? The I Ching isn't telling you what will happen. It's telling you what the texture of your current moment is. It is a book of change, but change isn't random. It follows the path of least resistance, unless you provide the lightning. So, how do we apply this 3,000-year-old biting through logic to your life this week? You don't need a temple or a set of yarrow stalks. You need a pen, a paper, and the courage to be unnice. Step 1. Perform a gristle audit. Identify the one thing in your life right now that feels like a snag. It's that conversation you've been avoiding. It's that subscription you haven't canceled. It's that toxic friend who drains your energy. We often try to nibble at these problems, hoping they'll go away. This week, you must name it. This is the gristle. The I Ching teaches that you cannot have success, until the obstruction is defined. Write it down in one sentence. Not work is stressful, but my manager's lack of clear KPIs is the obstruction to my promotion. Be as sharp as a lightning bolt. Step 2. The lightning strike conversation. Once you've identified the gristle, you must apply the thunder and lightning. Most of us fail because we are too polite to be clear. We use sandwich feedback or passive-aggressive hints. The I Ching says, it is favorable to let justice be administered. This doesn't mean being a tyrant. It means being just. This week, have that one hard conversation, but do it with the clarity of a judge. No emotion. No, I feel statements that invite debate. Just the facts. This project is stalled because of X. We need to do Y by Friday, or we must stop the project. You are biting through the meat to get to the bone. You will be surprised how much people respect the bite when it is administered with justice rather than anger. Step 3. The ear check. Remember the warning of the 9 at the top, the ears covered by the stalks. This week, go to someone you trust but who often disagrees with you. Ask them one specific question. What is the one thing I am currently deaf to? Do not defend yourself. Do not explain. Just listen. If you feel your ego rising up to protect you, that is the outer wood of the stalks forming around your head. To bite through, your own self-deception is the hardest teaching of the oracle, but it is the only way to avoid the misfortune that comes at the end of a cycle. Do you know why the I Ching has survived for 3,000 years? Because human nature is the only thing that doesn't change. We are still the same creatures who sat in that dungeon with King Wen. We still fear the lightning, and we still hope the gristle will just melt away. But the universe doesn't work that way. The universe respects the snap. We began today with a shocking truth, that your niceness might be your greatest obstacle. The I Ching doesn't ask you to be a good person in the way modern society defines it, meek, compliant, and quiet. It asks you to be a just person. A just person knows that a rot left untreated will destroy the whole body. A just person knows that a lie left unchallenged will poison the whole tribe. King Wen didn't survive that prison by being nice to his captors. He survived by biting through the despair and mapping the very laws of reality. If you find yourself stuck, remember Hexagram 21. Remember the thunder and the lightning. The discomfort you feel right now is not a sign that you are failing. It is the meat between your teeth. It is the universe's way of telling you that it is time to act. Stop nibbling at the edges of your potential. Stop waiting for the perfect time to be brave. The perfect time is the moment the lightning strikes. Bite through the hesitation. Administer justice to your own schedule. Clear the path so that the great success can finally flow. If you want to understand the deeper cycles of the 64 hexagrams, I have linked the Oracle's playbook below. It contains the core translations and the modern strategic decoding for each. In the next episode, we will explore Hexagram 29, the abysmal, how to survive when you are literally surrounded by water and danger on all sides. You can ignore the changes, but you cannot ignore the consequences of being static in a moving world. Don't be the one wearing the stocks while the rest of the world moves on. The Oracle sees the path. The question is, do you have the teeth to follow it?